Scholars, a gamer revolution is on its way. That's right. Things are heating up in the gaming industry, and it's fascinating to watch as people have breakdowns, especially game journalists and game developers freaking out about games just dying. Like, people are losing their mind on the concept that gamers are fed up with eating shit. They no longer will tolerate slop. They will not tolerate bad games. The gaming revolution is among us. Hell yeah, brother. Hell yeah. I'm all for this shit. I'm tired of seeing dog shit games, or I'm tired of seeing so many games that no one fucking wants. Like, even like Baldur's Gate, I didn't want, but I knew it was a good game, and it was very fun to watch. Personally, it wasn't for me to play, but it was enjoyable to watch. But damn, there's so many games that, like, I watched someone play the Relooted game. That is probably, and it was an African streamer, and I agree with him. That shit is some of the most racist DEI bullshit I've ever seen. And by the way, I've never been in the woke DEI scene but I've become a believer based on some of the shit I've seen. Like, that game specifically has turned me on, because there's no way that someone thought this is representing the African heritage or whatever bullshit they were trying to do. That shit was just straight racist. So I'm on the bandwagon. I'm on it, that there are definitely games out there like that are absolutely pushing some bullshit agenda that's probably made by a bunch of white assholes who think they're virtue signaling. So I'm all on board for the gamer revolution to shit down the throat of these shitty game developers who don't deserve your money or your attention. And we're gonna watch a video by Legendary Drops, where he actually kind of, it seems like I've seen a clip, and so I want to watch it all, where it's talking about that, you know, people are tired. Gamers are tired. So I'm actually very interested to watch this. If you enjoy, hit the like button, comment down below, subscribe to the channel. Also, make sure you hit the notification when you subscribe. Hit that notification that you'll see videos. But damn, it is time for the gaming revolution. I'm here for this.
Just stealing players from AAA games, they're stealing players exponentially, to the point now that investors are talking about it, and it's heralding the collapse of the default authority that much of this industry has enjoyed for far too long. See, now I know some people are going to say, well, people have always talked about indie games. There's always been popular indie games. True, but they've never been the primary point of discussion. That is something
I have to personally say that when I thought indie games, I thought of, like, in early 2000, I was thinking like indie DB. Like, I play indie games. So I thought they're cute little small games. Like, indie is a much broader term, broader, grasp than just AAA, right? There's so many wonderful indie games that aren't necessarily like low budget or just like fan made games. They're actually small teams that are developing it. Like, you were starting to see an increase in these developers getting spotlights, and rightly so, because they're doing what AAA has been desperately trying to do with half a team and significantly less money. They like Expedition 33 literally won so many awards and shat down the throat of the AAA industry. And chef's kiss, even though I've yet to play that game, chef's kiss.
Something that has almost always been fully dedicated to the biggest games in the industry, but in recent years, that has shifted almost entirely. And now we have analysts that are saying that this isn't some trend. No, indie games are the future of the games industry. Now, there are a lot of moving parts to this story.
Put in perspective, I'm pretty sure Power World is made by an indie company. And Power World was like really good. In fact, I would argue that it has encouraged Nintendo to try to translate some of the things. It encouraged Nintendo to try to sue their ass, but also definitely encouraged them to try to do some new changes, even though Legend ZA is just not as good as I would like to have been. But it is forced a fire under their ass, and hopefully we see that in the wider future. The competition like this is always a good thing, and especially when it's indie games where it's half the price of or even less than half the price of a AAA game. it really forces these studios to like, do we want money? Or do we want to flounder around and waste money? Because most of the time they're just wasting money.
I'm going to try to cover all of it. It's ranging anywhere from creativity to choice to price on some of these games. But what we are seeing right now is a complete takeover that is being executed by the most passionate, by the most creative, by the most in touch with their audience, and the most affordable. What's the saying? Time is like a flat circle. Well, today we're going back to the beginning.
Ooh.
But before that, a shout out to Starforge Systems, who did sponsor today's video. If you guys are looking for a new PC, check out the link
every time
down
I see
below.
Starforge
Best
PCs, they have
on the
decent
market.
looking ones.
I can say that because mine still works. Back to the video.
I'm interested to see how much
I find
PCs
the timing
cost
of this
now.
to be almost poetic. 2026 starts off with Riot Games laying off staff because 2XKO just didn't have enough momentum to justify the team size.
By the way, I just want to point this out. You're going to see a lot more of this happen. More people are going to lose their jobs. And you know what? Is it the gamers' fault? I'm tired. I'm going to say this. If you want to blame the gamers for your failures, go fuck yourself. It is no one's fault but your own. It is not the consumer's job to make sure you have a job. When I drive down the road and there's multiple restaurants and shopping malls, whatever the fuck, and I choose not to engage with those, and if other people do not engage with those stores and suddenly they have to shut down because they're not getting enough service, is that my fault? No. Welcome to capitalism. Duh.
Behind it, while Hytale, the game that they abandoned because they just couldn't get it out the door, comes back from the dead, gets bought back by its original creators, and then blows past 2 million in sales only weeks after its reacquisition. Then we have Highguard, the investor-backed independent AAA live service game that's player count dies in a matter of hours, and here we are yet again talking about layoffs. Meanwhile, Meowgenic shows up, sells 500,000 copies.
This is not my game. This is another indie game that isn't my game, but you have to give a shout out to the fact that it is popping off because it's a fun little game. It's a fun, cute little game that it's inexpensive and it's about the fun. It wasn't bells and whistles. Oh my God, 4K resolution on the highest engine ever. You could literally blow bubbles out your butthole in 4K. No, it's just about fun.
In under 48 hours, cracks 80,000 concurrent players on Steam.
That's crazy.
And while, yes, this is coming from the developer who made Binding of Isaac, the marketing for this game was basically a YouTube video from its creator on a scuffed webcam 5 months before release.
That's sick.
This is the story that we've been watching get louder and louder every single year. Big budget AAA games land with teams of hundreds or thousands, marketing so thick you can't escape it, and then nothing. No traction, no pull. They hit the market like a brick and sink. Meanwhile, indie games made by 1 or 2 people show up with zero marketing and just shred the charts apart, snatching the players
I made a
by
joke
the
and it
millions.
popped up. That's funny.
For a long time, it was easy to treat this like it's some fun underdog story. People love to see the little guy win, but there's always been this quiet...
I think we're at the point where the indie games are no longer underdog. They're becoming the top dog. And you're seeing this with games like Call of Duty, where they're dramatic. Like these little indie games are having more success and more player retention than actual like live service games. And that's bad. Like when live service is getting shit on by these games that are meant to be consumed in one bit, like that's important. Like this is not a live service game. People know exactly what they're getting in and they feel comfortable because they know it's a finished product. Whereas live service, often or not, it's not a finished product. Highguard was not a finished product. Sure, it was free, but who wants to invest in something that isn't finished? You're seeing also Call of Duty, like the most recent one, Black Ops. People are like, that should have been a DLC for the previous one, and it's just a cash grab.
Dismissal that I've seen underneath it. Like these wins don't matter. Like the industry is just too big to have any consequences. Like the silent majority is out there and they're still just propping up the AAA games industry. And if you think that, you're wrong. Because indie isn't just outperforming AAA every once in a while.
It's happening more often.
Players are getting pulled away repeatedly and they're not coming back. And now we have proof. Not long ago, Bain & Company, a group of analysts and managers working under the Bain investment umbrella, mostly focused on tech and things like that, published a report titled Squeezed in the Middle, AAA Game Studios Must Adapt, where they wrote AAA video game studios are caught in a pincer movement. On one side, nimble indies are delivering hit games on shoestring budgets, and on the other, huge games-as-a-service platforms such as Roblox and Fortnite are pulling players, creators, and brands into their gravitational orbit.
So here's the thing. We could talk about indie games as he goes, but the reason why games like Roblox and Fortnite works is one, they know who they know exactly who they're selling it to. Right? They are trying to reach the gamers. Like, they're unapologetically, this is for the gamers. Roblox is more of just like kind of like a creative house, make whatever you want on our, it's a platform of like, it's almost like Gmod. You throw back to the classic days Gmod, where you can make as many different kind of games as you want, and it kind of popped off like Def Run. You know, that's where Prop Hunt really popped off. Man, I'm dating myself. You have Fortnite has custom games and they have Prop Hunt. Like, it's the evolution of what was already working. They took the template and evolved it. They adapted, they grew, and they gave people what they wanted versus what the developers wanted. And that's the problem. Fortnite knows what its consumers want. They know the value proposition. They know exactly what people are willing to spend and how much time they're willing to invest. And they know what they need to do to keep interest in the game. And so that's why they're so successful. And they're probably, if not competing with CSGO as the most lucrative live service game in the industry, because they are focused on what can we give to the gamers versus it's just my art. I want to make sure that my game is as artful as I want it to be. And I want you to buy my art. Like, no shitty fan fiction, no shitty art. It is about the gamer for the gamer. And that's how you make money.
In between, AAA studios are getting squeezed. Executives from these incumbent studios can no longer ignore the hard truth. They will have to reinvent how they operate if they want to stay relevant and secure their future. Indie developers are thriving despite lacking large workforces and financial resources that would come with being owned by a major publisher. As an illustration, their PC revenues grew at 22% compound annual rate from 2018 through 2024 versus 8% for AA, mid-market studios, and AAA, large studios with big teams and budgets focused on making ambitious titles. Even indie's share of total games available on Steam has remained relatively constant, according to our analysis of estimated upfront game sales from Video Games Inside. Okay, so now to translate that into normal human language. Indie isn't just growing faster than AAA, it's growing at nearly 3 times the rate over the same stretch. And because growth compounds, that gap isn't just sitting there, it's snowballing. It's becoming
the reason why you're seeing such growth is, one, these are smaller teams, meaning the opinions and the thoughts are very condensed. You think of like Call of Duty, there are too many hats throwing in what they want. You got the big chiefs with all the all the little people. In an indie game where you have a smaller team, it's faster. I want this. Okay, let's do this. Let's make it happen. Versus, we can't do this. We need financially this. It's too much bloat. And that's why you see so much, some of these AAA games cost millions of dollars, because it's just bloat. You're paying too much for too many hands in the pot. And it's not emphasizing the fun factor. It's how can we capitalize with as much money monopolization as we can. And that's part of the problem.
New default for the industry. And the market share here is a savage telling, because Bain could sit here and say AAA grew 8%.
Oh,
sure,
yeah.
But AAA also started with the throne. If AAA's market share, which in this case means player base or individual sales, drops from 76% to 61%, that's bad. That's really bad. That's a 15% loss. That's like these guys
it's only getting worse.
From 90 to 100 million individual sales. That's essentially the floor giving out from underneath them. And in this case, they're only talking through 2024. 2025 was even worse for these guys. That was a year where most of the biggest budget releases came in under expectations outside of Battlefield 6. And multiple indie games were tearing holes through the games industry, dragging players away. And you know what makes this entire thing that much more insulting? It includes Black Myth Wukong and Baldur's Gate 3 into AAA sales. And I don't care what box and analyst wants to try to put them in. Those are not AAA games in my eyes, nor do I think a lot of players would view those games as AAA either. They are outliers. And if you strip those out...
I mean, when I think of what is considered AAA, I'm thinking of well-known, very popular, very wealthy, billion-dollar companies. I don't think little small companies, maybe AA, but definitely I don't see these games being AAA. Like, this isn't something, these guys aren't cranking out games every year like Call of Duty.
Outliers away, that means these guys are suffering massive losses. And the funny thing is, even drafting 2 games into their corner that honestly do not belong there, these guys are still getting beaten by indie games. That is just insane to me. So what's causing this loss of players? Why are indie games taking over the industry? Well, even the analysts are starting to see things from our perspective, though I do think their data is flawed. Bain writes, what's fueling this disruption is not a cycle, it is a structural shift that's reshaping the economics of the industry. Several trends are behind it. Player preferences are evolving. While gamers continue to value high-fidelity graphics, gameplay is the most important reason players choose and stay engaged with games. In Bain's 2025 survey, 22% of gamers cited gameplay as the #1 reason they play their favorite games, while high-quality graphics or audio was cited by only 7% of gamers as the most important factor. That dynamic has helped level the playing field, as game studios of any size can achieve commercial success if they get the gameplay right. See Undertale, Stardew Valley, and Vampire Survivors, for example. Indie quality is up. Top indie games rival or surpass AAA titles in critical acclaim. Last year, 75% of the top 20 highest rated games on Metacritic were developed by indie studios, nearly double their share in 2016. As of this writing, Claire Obscure Expedition 33, Blueprints, and Split Fiction top Metacritic's 2025 ratings, outshining even the most ambitious AAA releases. They go on to talk about disruptive tech, barriers collapsing, budgets not making sense, marketing not working, and yeah, all that stuff matters. Indie quality is obviously up.
You really want to know why AAA are failing? I'm going to give you the answer right here. Because they keep making games that no one fucking wants. I know, it's crazy. When AAA make games that no one fucking wants, and or you are asking for a premium, you're increasing the prices of your games year after year, and you make the most minimal marginal changes, you are no longer providing an equal value proposition. You're especially with like Call of Duty. I'm picking on them because they're the perfect example of corporate greed without, actually giving substantial changes. You are providing something that people deem as what should have been a DLC and would have been considered a DLC in the past. And instead, you're asking for a full price for a minimal package. Guess what's going to happen? People are not going to buy your shit. They're going to walk away, and they're going to play games that actually value their time, value their money, and give you a full package for its price. And it's fun.
I think anybody can see that, but they're still missing the point here, because they're treating those high ratings like it's a fact to report instead of a question that needs to be answered. Why were they rated that highly? What did they do that AAA isn't doing? And also, I'm sorry, I want to know who they are surveying, because there's no shot that only 22% of gamers said that gameplay is the reason that they stick to a game.
Yeah.
Like, okay, sure, you're going to have a couple people that are here.
I love people thinking that you could have, like Dark Souls, the Souls games is a perfect example of a game that has lore and some narration, but almost 90% of that game, people only care because of the gameplay. A good game can have shitty narrative, but as long as it's fun, no one gives a shit. Or it could have minimalist narration as long as it's fun. Sure, we want good lore, and it absolutely makes it beneficial, especially if it's a storied mode game. Like, imagine BioShock has great gameplay, but its story is ass. It probably wouldn't have been as popular, but it had good story and it had good gameplay, right? And so when you have these two magical things come together, you have bread and butter. But gameplay alone is the significant. If people wanted a good story, they would watch a movie or read a book. I mean, it's one thing if you're playing a game called, The Walking Dead, Tall Tales, wherever the hell, that's an interactive story. Most people, when they play a game, they want to play a game where they're involved into the action with the gameplay.
For the story, the art, music, vibes, I'm here for my waifu, whatever. But is it fun is the actual foundation of these games. It is the entire tree. Everything else just hangs off of that. Without it, the game dies. And
exactly.
AAA has basically been speedrunning proof of that over the past couple of years. For all the insights in this report, the biggest miss they have is how self-inflicted this collapse is, especially around gameplay. These games just aren't fun. And
they make gameplay a secondary choice, and they try to use their artistic to focus on shitty fan fiction. Look at Destiny. It's become nothing but shitty fan fiction. Hell, even Call of Duty. Who the fuck decided to make the campaign about this weird LSD, drug trip where it's just like, what are we, like, it felt like it should be a horror game instead of a military game. It's like, what the fuck are we even playing here? It's because someone had this artistic vibe. Like, this is the biggest problem with the AAA industry. Everyone wants to be a fucking Houdini artistic. I think, looking back, I think The Last of Us, even The Walking Dead, Telltales, has done so much fucking harm to the gaming industry because now people like those series, and now everyone wants to chase that bullshit. Everyone wants to it's all about the narrative, the story, the journey, the art. And people just want a good fucking game to play. Like, people, it's crazy. And they act like when people get laid off, what? I thought we had a banger here. I mean, hell, the High Guard team were gassing each other up saying, we've got this best thing, this is a hit. And it was not a hit. And the concept that it was just people on internet hating it. And so everyone on the internet saw each other hating it. And they're like, I'm going to hate it too. Like this hive mind where no one has critical thinking, and video gamers just can't decide by looking at gameplay whether they like something or not. Especially considering PlayStation High Guard was like top 10 sellers or played, right? Like this whole narrative bullshit where these game developers are trying to save face for why they're shutting down or the game is doing ass. It's because they're making things for themselves or for whatever agenda they're trying to push. They're not focusing on providing their main core audience, which are gamers. They're not trying to make fun. They're trying to make a buck.
Priorities are completely out of order. Bane is right that if players care more about gameplay, indies are going to have an easier time competing because that's all they have. But that's also the part that AAA gave up. In indie games, gameplay is the starting line. In AAA, it feels increasingly more optional. AAA games stopped obsessing over the gameplay and started obsessing over the way they look, over how they're positioned, over the agenda that they're trying to pretend to represent, how they could attract more investors, what trend they're trying
everything
to
I just said.
And when you build a game like that, you don't end up building something that people love. You just end up building something that people tolerate until they don't.
These Metroid-style games are very popular. Like Hades was really popular. Like there's lore, but people play it because of gameplay.
Back last year during the 30th anniversary of Space Invaders, the game's creator, Tomohiro Nishikado, said that he thinks games are being made the wrong way, and he pointed out this very issue. He said the game development process in Taito eventually changed, and we, the game creators, were increasingly expected to listen to the sales team, which came up with new title concepts they thought would sell.
And there's your problem. You're making a game focused on what can make money, but you're not thinking about what actually makes money. It's kind of so weird because you think make a game that gamers want and you'll make money, but they don't want to do that. They want to make the most money for as little effort as possible. That's why you see trend chasing. They're like, let's chase the trend and try to soak up as much money in that money pot. Which is why we saw so many failed battle royales, which is why you're starting to see, extraction shooters starting to, get, solidify. And it's going to get to a point where people are going to try to crank more out and they're just going to start busting. We've yet to see how Marathon plays out. We'll see if it thrives or survives or just straight up dies. We don't know. We'll have to wait to see how it plays out. But when you oversaturate a market and you're not providing actual value, well, you're no longer competing. You can't just throw a game out there in the market and expect it to survive for it to even be successful. You can't just throw something out with minimal effort and demand that you make more money out of it. Like, that's not how that works. And I think that the game industry thought that that's how it worked and how it should work. And they're trying to gaslight everyone to feel bad when it doesn't work. And they're gonna have a reality check.
Then we started game development based on that. Personally, I don't think it's the correct approach. Creators should make a game on their own first, and then they should expand the project larger. That's what I felt throughout my whole career. AAA games feel a lot like skinwalkers. They just kind of sketch you out. You can tell they're not necessarily the same as everybody else. Underneath, it's just an amalgamation of a bunch of different incentives, a bunch of different people pulling strings in all kinds of different directions for their own wants and needs. None of it having anything to do with you as a player.
Yep.
It's all about whether they think it will sell. Does it look like the game that it needs to look like? Is it going to offend anybody? Is it sending the right message? Can we monetize it? Can we put a battle path in it? That's what I think happened to Diablo 4. It's one of the reasons that game probably took so long to come out, is because these guys had a hard time figuring out how they were going to monetize it as a live service. And you see that pretty much across the board with a lot of these games. And I think that this can only go on for so long before the games themselves start to lose meaning, and then the studios start to lose players. Somewhere along the way,
I love how he parroted almost everything I said and added to it, for sure.
When games got mainstream, they started becoming more profitable, the video game part of the equation just disappeared. And once these guys started exploiting these games for profit, let's be honest, it's exactly what these companies are doing. As much as these guys want to come out and be like, guys, I'm trying to make the most creative thing ever. You have to understand, stop bullying me online. There are executives that are above you that are trying to milk.
Yes. Imagine that. Imagine fucking that. Holy shit. There it is. That's the problem right there. And guess what? Boo fucking who? Go work at McDonald's. No one gives a fucking shit about you if you lose your job because you didn't know how to actually give people what the fuck they want. Welcome to capitalism, bitch.
This industry as hard as they possibly can, and they don't care if it collapses because they'll just go get a job in another industry. That's what CEOs do. Watch the path of some of these guys.
They're just gonna snake around. They'll go to another gaming company, burn that until and then they'll, like Pete Parsons from Bungie was a perfect example. The little snake slithering around, milking whatever he can out of the gamer tits, and then he's already got his little golden parachute. He's living his highlight. Like, let's be honest.
Are destructive forces. But it's no surprise now that we're starting to see the pendulum swing in the opposite direction.
Yep.
Back to video games just being video games.
Feels fucking good.
I don't know exactly when it happened for me, but when I look at the numbers that they were showing, this is almost the exact same timeline or experience that I felt where I started playing less and less AAA games.
I think it happened in COVID. I think the pendulum started swinging the other way. You think everyone's locked up. You have games like Among Us. This little indie game, this little baby game blew up. Party game. People, no one can go out, so they played and had fun with Among Us. You had the developers quickly try to add more content, allow the mod support, allowing the game to flourish without, overly trying to monetize it. It was about the fun. And when you start seeing that, you start seeing other little games like that. I forgot what was the game, the Epic's version of it. Like the little indie game. Oh, God, I don't remember what's called. Little Bean Dudes. Yeah, that was another one. You're starting to see more games come out during that time that was focused on gameplay. You see Baldur's Gate come out. You're seeing Expedition 33, Pow World. You're seeing Black Myth Wukong. All these games the industry hates because they're done by smaller teams with less of the money, and it's focused on gameplay, less about microtransactions, less about a live service model. How can we milk the tits of our gamers? It's just about the good old game. And I think we're going to get to a point where live service games outside of the niche, like Arc Raiders, Hell Divers, outside of those, and even like Warframe that are ongoing, you're going to see eventually these live service games are going to dip off, and people are not going to want live service games because they're nothing but cash grabs. You're going to see, I think we're going to see more of a swing towards single player games. And I think that's where we need to be, because until the AAA industry figures out what the fuck to do and actually provide good gameplay, they need to stay away from the live service model because they're not doing it well.
In more and more indie games. And while there are still AAA games that I get excited for, it's a fleeting matter.
Yep.
Once the honeymoon phase ends, I almost immediately start seeing the ugly head of the AAA hallmarks that I've gotten all too used to, and I just walk away and go back to an indie game.
Yep.
Now, all of this explains why people aren't playing AAA games anymore. And these analysts are starting to figure it out, which means investors are also going to figure it out. That part I don't necessarily like, but they have all the data, they have the analytics. But the one thing that these guys don't seem to understand is why people play indie games. It should probably come as no surprise, but I've somehow already sunk over 30 hours into Eugenics.
Jesus.
And I don't exactly know when that happened. I just kind of blinked and a couple days disappeared. I haven't really been sleeping all that well recently, but I will say one of the things that I realized is how few of these indie devs give a fuck. This is a game about eugenics. It's about trying to breed the perfect cat-killing machine using D&D party and class structure inside of a tactical turn-based roguelike where you can end up breeding cats that have autism and ADHD. The voice cast includes literal real-life ideological enemies like Ethan Klein and iDubbbz.
Oh, wait,
The
what?
devs actually put Chris Chan in this game. And of course, the second the game dropped, it got the usual problematic treatment. PC Gamer ran the whole entire controversy pre-game. Rock, Paper, Shotgun grilled Edmund McMillan over the casting. And his answer...
Can we just stop and realize you've got PC Gamer, all these journalists, even Paul Tassi for Forbes. Can we just say what's obvious? Back in the day, these were the reviewers, these were the knowledgeable people because they were able to get inside early access. And this is before we had the internet, where we had YouTubers and content creators playing games and showing gameplay. So you'd look at, I remember looking at Game Informer to get early, like, oh, they played this, they're talking about this, I can't wait for this. Fast forward, we live in 2026. Why the fuck are we listening to journalists who play worse than the average? Hell, there's kids in my school, 5th graders, who can play games better than these journalists. Why the fuck are we listening to these people? Their age, like, there are people on the internet who are better at reviewing and being critical of a game because they actually play games versus these journalists. And I think that's why they're desperately trying to stay relevant. But you could, like, seriously, I am about as equally as skilled at games as Paul Tassi, if not more. And that could be said for almost 90% of gamers. So why are we listening to these people, especially PC Gamer? Like, why are we getting our opinions from people who don't even know how to play a fucking game? Like, how many times have you watched people play a game and they're reviewing it and they're a journalist and they look like they're walking in an EA demo? Like, it's just, what are we doing here? So I don't take a lot of stock in opinion from journalists who are definitely always trying to push some kind of agenda. They're paid and bought by these AAA companies. Why do I give a fuck about their opinion? Why should you? And this is one of the things that we need to push back on as gamers is like, we no longer need you. You're irrelevant. You provide nothing new or unique that isn't already being provided. I would rather watch 10 hours of some dude on Twitch playing a game than get my opinion from a journalist that wants to sit there and give a game a 6 out of 10 just because it has the game Arc Raiders has some AI in it. Oh, text to speech 6 out of 10 or whatever the bullshit they gave it. And the guy's trying to preach about AI. Like, go fuck yourself.
Is perfect. He just said if he had only picked who he agreed with, he'd be the only one meowing in the game. And I can't lie.
Damn.
That is absurdly refreshing. I think that that's a huge reason why a lot of these indie games are taking over. It's not better tools. It's not marketing trends. It's not whatever analyst language that they want to use. It's that these games are being made from the roots again. Somebody with vision, someone making something that they think is cool without spending half of their dev cycle terrified of online drama, politics, trends, optics, or whether or not some consultant is going to try to flag a line of their dialogue.
They are not catering to anyone except for gamers. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, all well, go play something else, right? But they're not being dickheads about it either.
It's two questions. Is this cool and is this fun? And that mindset keeps winning. I think that Nishikado quote from earlier nails this perfectly. Developers should make their own games first. Indie games still have that quality behind them where you can feel a person behind it.
Are you making a game for your investors, or are you making game for your gamers? If it's investors, you're doing it wrong.
Somebody's taste, somebody's weirdness, somebody's obsession, not a product that's built to satisfy 10 different incentives at once. Games like Mugenics feel selfishly made, and that's not a flaw. That's where some of the best games come from. The Legend of Zelda exists because Miyamoto wanted to bottle his own childhood, exploring caves in the countryside of Japan, and turn that feeling into a video game. Concerned Ape made Stardew Valley because he felt that Harvest Moon kept getting worse. Notch made Minecraft as a personal project because he just loved the loop of building stuff with blocks. Miyazaki, his whole approach to FromSoft storytelling, the gaps, the fragments, that comes from him being a kid who couldn't read Western novels, Western fantasy novels that he was obsessed with, so he just started filling in the blanks with his own imagination. Yoko Taro, Nier Automata, that's basically him just giving his own personal retelling of Evangelion through his own weird lens. You keep going down the list, and you're going to realize something very fast. Most of the games that people actually love didn't start off as a market demand. They started off as somebody wanting to make something that they thought was cool, something that they thought was fun. You know, for a really long time, I assumed that a lot of these big indie hits were just about listening to the players. Like, these guys are DJs out there taking requests, just perfectly responding to market feedback. But the more that I watch it, the more I come to realize that these guys are the ones that are making the call and then answering it themselves. They're not some alien species. They are you. They are me. They're sitting around asking.
They're bros out there playing games, making game for gamers. You can make a game that's only good for you, but these people are thinking, you know what? I want my bro to come in and play. Hey, bro, what do you think about this? Sick? Yeah. Like, it's a shared experience versus my artistic values. I want to make sure that I, the artist, am just doing what I think is great.
What happened to that game? Where did that game go? Why doesn't anybody make a game like this? And instead of waiting, these guys are just doing it themselves. And when I start to look at it through that lens, why these games are being made, the way these games are being designed, the success makes a lot more sense. These games make a lot more sense. They're making games for themselves as a video game player. When I play an indie game, I boot it up and I just play it. Even if it's on the first playthrough, there's barely any downtime. No 10-minute movie intro, no long-winded exposition, no tutorial that's keeping me from playing the actual game. Meanwhile, with AAA games, they become increasingly more abrasive and convoluted. I remember when I was reviewing Call of Duty Black Ops 7, and it took me almost 15 minutes just to get to actual gameplay. Shaders installing, updating, restarting, relaunching, agreeing to sharing my data and their community guidelines and whatever else. Then more cutscenes and menu juggling. And the whole time I'm just sitting there thinking, all I want to do is play a game. I just want to play the game. The longer you keep me from doing that, the more likely I am to leave.
It is really bad. Like, you have to, you boot up the game, you like update it, right? You turn it on, and then it tells you need to restart and do an update. So you restart, then you load up, and then you choose if you want a campaign or something. Then it restarts because it has to go from one menu to a new launcher for the. Instead, it's just so convoluted, and then you have to wait for the shaders part. Like, this is the shit that no one wants. They just want to download a game and fucking play it. No one wants to play a freaking menu simulator. No one wants to sit there and have to worry about your bullshit. Or if you have shitty, like, anti-theft bullshit that makes your frames drop. Like, it's just, they're so worried about all these little small things that they're robbing the, like, Borderlands would have been a fantastic launch game, like Borderlands 4 outside of Endgame. But they were so focused on the de novo bullshit and trying to hit the highest graphic possible, and no one's fucking PC could handle the fucking game. Like, you had to have a PC from fucking NASA. It was that bad because they're so focused on min-maxing things that don't fucking matter.
Indie games remind me of older games for that reason. Over the holidays, I got gifted one of those digital Super Nintendos. I sat down, I turned it on, and I immediately realized none of that friction ever existed back then.
Nope.
The focus was entirely on you getting into the game fast and having enough game there to keep you. Hell, most of the games didn't even have tutorials. All they did was just walk you into the game and had you figure it out. And figuring it out was actually part of the fun.
Yeah.
You were discovering the controls. You were discovering the game itself, bare bones with context or no context at all, and you were just off to the races. So now here I am playing Eugenics, and I'm realizing it's the exact same attraction. You breed cats, cool, but the game is not sitting you down and spoon-feeding you all of the optimal breeding paths. It's not even telling you
There's no yellow stairs to tell you where to go.
to guarantee traits, what stats belong on what role, what the best build is, or any of that. You get basic controls, and that's about it. You don't even know how terrain works, how you can use elements, how chain abilities work, or how you can use items properly. The game just gives you a puzzle, throws it in your lap, and says, figure it out. A lot of modern games have moved away from that. Everything gets explained in full detail. Nothing gets left unsaid. It's all in the name of accessibility. So they just want to make sure that everyone understands the game because they need everyone to understand the game. So they spell everything out. They flatten the learning curve. They sand down the edges. And once that mindset takes over, it just starts bleeding into the rest of the design. The game is so complex. Well, now they're going to over-explain. Then they notice that they're over-explaining, so now they simplify. They remove features. They remove texture. They make it easier to swallow. In that process, the game starts to lose its feeling of discovery. It starts to lose its...
I want to say that you can make a game where it holds people's hands, but you make that... we used to call that easy mode. And you could keep all that shit in easy mode, and then give people to have a normal version that doesn't have all that shit. That gives people the challenge. So if people are struggling, they can go to the easy mode, baby's first mode. Like, but some people don't want to take the effort to do that. I get it's a lot of development, not for it to be used, but like I don't know. Like, I feel like some games do need to have some explanation because they're so complex. Like your MMO style games like Destiny and like Warframe, right? There needs to be some tutorial explanation, right? Or you just be lost. But when you're talking about a single player game or like a game that isn't as complex with many systems, yeah, you should let people figure it out on their own.
Feeling of a video game. It starts to lose the sense of exploration and achievement that you only get from earning your understanding, which is the whole reason that we play a lot of these games. Beyond that, the final point that I'm going to make, if you guys really want to know why indie is winning, and yes, I know that I harp on this point a lot, the biggest deciding factor here is price. And I don't just mean that indie games are cheaper so people buy them. I mean, price changes the shape of success here. It makes the difference between basically all of these games. It makes these games way easier to try, way easier to recommend, way easier to go viral, and it's how you end up with indie outpacing AAA at nearly 3 times the growth.
As we said before, are you paying full price for something that should have been a DLC? Or are you paying something that's actually unique? Is the value proposition there? If the answer is no, then you are not going to have success, right?
Growth. Like, do the math. If you bought every indie hit in 2025, you'd be looking at around $300. If you bought every AAA release, you'd be north of $1,600. That is a huge gap. That is the difference between, sure, I'll grab it, and I need to be convinced that I'm not going to waste my money. There is simply more room for players to say yes with indie games than there is with AAA, and it's not even close. Indie games are simply just better pretty much across the board. Indie games are being made by people who still have their incentives that are lining up with the players. They respect your time. They feel fun immediately. They make something that people actually want to play, while AAA is sitting around making games for everybody else except the player. These games are just better.
They're making with the artistic value. By the way, I'm not making fun of necessarily the developers. I'm making fun of all the let's just call it shit eaters out there who are trying desperately to defend these developers who are boo-hoo on Twitter. Like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I'm embarrassed to be a gamer. You guys are so horrible. Shut the fuck up. Like, you if you're a gamer and you're not pro gamer, you're pro retard. Like, you're just absolutely fucking stupid. Like, there's no fucking way that you could be a gamer and sit there and be like, you know what? I like eating shit. Like, let's be honest here.
In every single way, whether it's affordability, whether it's creativity, whether it's even the way they look in some cases. I mean, look at some of these games visually. You can take a screenshot and almost know exactly where some of these games are coming from, but with a lot of these modern AAA games, they all look the same. They're spending millions of dollars chasing the exact same aesthetic because none of these guys understand where success is coming from. It reminds me of this video that I saw where some guy green screened my apartment's background into his video. Flattering, weird, but it's definitely, you're going down the wrong lane. I'm going to tell you that right now. I just want people to appreciate how much this industry is flipped.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely transformed at this point. Nearly everybody I know outside of people that play Nintendo games are skeptical of every single AAA release. But
yeah, because everyone in Nintendo just thinks Nintendo is the fucking bee's knees. It is there. Like, we can shit on like a lot of different fanboys. The Nintendo fanboys are another breed of shit eaters. Like, they're just the fact that the Nintendo Switch 2 has been nothing but a fucking scam so far, because it has it has released shit all for it. You spent so much more for an upgrade for so little to get into that's a whole different video. But people were so ravaged about defending Nintendo. It is crazy.
they're over the moon for a $20 indie game that's coming from somebody that's a nobody, that's coming from nowhere. But to be honest with you, that nobody from nowhere is a lot closer to you and I than a C-suite executive that's trying to slap another character with a Killmonger haircut because they believe that it's better for audience demographics.
He's not wrong. Oh, no. He's not wrong.
When did you guys start waiting for AAA releases instead of counting them down? You know, back in the day, 10, 15 years ago, people were waiting outside in the blistering cold, in the smoldering heat. They were already sold on these games years.
I can remember waiting outside of my GameStop at midnight. Just got off work because I worked at the Walmart right like behind the GameStop. Roll up, military dudes in their Humvees passing out pizza and Dr. Pepper. Had the TV out there, like the small little flat screen. Outside, people playing Call of Duty. Right there, the actual game itself that you're about to buy, playing it out there in front of the store. Everyone hanging out, having a good time. They're giving out giveaways like posters. They're giving out like, some might get like a gift card or something, like small shit like that. And essentially they'd give away old stuff that they need to get rid of. But it's still cool because you got free shit. But that was a vibe. I remember just being excited to be able to, I did that twice. One for Black Ops 1 and Black Ops 2. Best experiences I ever had. Unfortunately, I didn't do that for Halo 3 RAP. It couldn't make it happen. I'm sorry. But I wish I was there for the launch of Halo 3.
Years before they ever released. Now, everybody waits. I was back there when the ancient texts were first written for the Wrath of the Lich King launch, for Grand Theft Auto 5, for Halo 3, even further back than that. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm fading right now. But, part of that is digital downloads. That's the reason why people didn't show up for them anymore. But the other part, nothing's stopping people from playing some of these games and waiting up until midnight until they launch. But
it's also not, people are playing on Steam, where you have like a 2-hour gap where people are playing and here's the deal. There are definitely people who are just going to play and then shit on something. But there's people, like, you can tell if the game does not hook you within the first hour, it's a bad game for you. Now, if you have multiple people, like the multitude, the wider game audience has the same shared experience, then it's a bad game. This whole fallacy that you need to spend 15 hours to get hooked in, like, I love the common argument. You've got to be 15 hours in and then the game starts getting good. I'm sorry, what? It's like, what? I love people who like, is that the same argument we do for books and movies? Like you're about 30 minutes into the movie and then it starts getting good. Like, oh yeah, that was a great movie. It just, you have to sit through 30 minutes of shit to get to the good stuff. No, then it's a shitty movie.
Doesn't really happen. We stopped waiting. We stopped showing up. You know, if this year plays out like last year did, we're going to see a lot more than 3 times the growth.
We're going to see
These
layoffs.
guys are going to surrender more and more of this industry at an ever-increasing rate, and it's ultimately going to end up in more layoffs, more studio closures, and to be honest with you, while there's going to be a lot of people, at least in games media, that are going to be mourning that, I'm going to be celebrating the better.
I'm going to be celebrating it too. Video game revolution, and you're going to see a bunch of content creators and journalists. Oh, you gamers are so mean. It's going to be sound like this. Nope. Hello? Is it this one? No, it's this one. Nope. Nope. Hello? Nope. Nope.
Nope. Oh, the gamers are so evil. I can't believe they're rejoicing at people losing their jobs. How could you do this?
Crocodile tears. That's what that's called. Crocodile tears. Because guess what? These are the same assholes that will probably drive by multiple stores. Even if those stores were to shut down, they would still keep driving by. Like this whole, it's called suicidal empathy. You can be empathetic, but at the same time, it's suicidal to sit there and act like, woe is me. Welcome to reality. Welcome to the corporate world. The consumer has no responsibility to buy your shit, to like your shit. No one in the gaming industry owes you a damn fucking thing. But guess what? You want to be a business? You want to succeed? You want to thrive? You want to make fucking money? Be that billion-dollar company? Guess what? You need to give the consumer, the gamer, what they want. You don't like it, then it's time to put the fries in the bag. It's time for you to go back to McDonald's. And if you're a dick sucker who's like, woe is me, my poor billion-dollar company, you can't say that about my billion-dollar company. Guess what? You can continue to suck dick while they go to McDonald's, right?
Games. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends. Follow me on social media.
The link will be down below. Abso-fucking-lutely. You should absolutely check out, shout out to them. These companies are not going to think, how can we do better? They're going to think, how can we stop indie games? Holy shit, if there isn't a truer statement. You're already seeing it. You're seeing how people are going to try to villainize indie games. They're going to try to make people feel bad. You're already seeing it. I mean, I've already seen it constantly on Twitter. People villainizing people for, disliking games or criticizing or being critical. Like, I want us as a gaming community to shit down their throats. That's right. Fuck you. Fuck your noise. Fuck your bullshit. You're not pro gamer. You're pro shit eater. And you need to go fuck yourself. I know that's very vitriolic, but it's time to return back to an era where gaming was fun. It's about the reason people play games is to escape reality. But when you try to insert reality into gaming and make it completely toxifying it, making a cash grab, it's about money versus an experience. Guess what? Go broke, shut down, go sell some fries. I'm not going to feel sad for you. I'm not going to be empathetic to you. You chose it. This is what you get. It's the fuck around and find out. And that's how I feel. It's time for that gamer revolution, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the like button, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget, link to the video. Go show Legendary Drops. Love his videos. And I'll see you in the next one. Viva la revolution!